Hi, I'm Celeste Holm.
And I'm Bob Vila.
And you're listening to
You Might Know Her From with Ann and Damien. Oh wow, we're auditioning for SNL. Now we have characters.
When I tell you, you asked me, can you do a Celeste Holm? I said, absolutely not. I can't do an impression to save my life. I was like, do I have Glynis Johns in my back pocket? And I was like, I don't think I do. I definitely don't.
As a kid, I had like a few celebrity, quote unquote, impressions in my back pocket. I'll tell you what they were because they're very 90s.
Niche.
Yeah, and niche. It was Bob Vila, and I would literally say, I'm Bob Vila. Would you like me to redo your home? That's the impression.
It's menacing.
Yeah.
But he was such a product of the 90s. He was everywhere, and he was always so put together.
Yeah. I would do Urkel, of course.
What is it? What did he say?
Did I do that?
Yeah, but what was the cheese line? Anybody got any cheese?
I forgot about that.
Did he say that?
I think so.
I played the Family Matters theme song for my sister when I was home in Missouri, and it really slaps. It's so, so good. Of all of them, by far, I think Family Matters is the best.
Do you remember when they also did the Urkel, and it was like, do the Urkel, do the Urkel, and he like, there was a whole dance like,
yeah.
Everybody.
How do you feel about Jaleel White? Would you fuck him?
He's hot.
Yeah, he's really
like.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when they like realized that Jaleel White was hot, and then they like invented a character that was like put him in a.
Oh right, he was very smooth.
Stefan Urkel.
That's right. He had that like big zoot suit that he would put on. That was like very 90s. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like what I never realized is Jaleel White definitely had the sort of rom-com put glasses on her, and you can't tell that she's beautiful. It's like he is a cute kid and had a good tight little body. There was no mistaking it, but good for him. I feel like he is respected in the world these days. I think he has like a good online social media. Is that?
Oh, I don't know. Is that true?
I think his social media presence is respectable. I'm into it.
Folks, hello, and welcome back to another episode of You Might Know Her From
with Ann and Damien.
If you didn't clue in at the beginning of the show, Celeste Holm and Bob Vila are not here.
Did Bob Vila die?
Probably.
We're not going to fact check it. I tried to kill Celeste Holm off many times. She is now dead officially.
When Ann and I first became really good friends in 2010, you would always tell me, you would be like, Celeste Holm, she's dead, because we like watched Oklahoma together, and then you just kept like, it was like a bit then, you'd be like, oh, she's not dead, and then you'd be like, is she dead? Like, it would always like, I can't remember, and we'd be like, she's still alive, and then eventually she died. What year, do you know?
I think it was like 6 years ago. I want to say it was 2017, but she has one of those faces that just looks like it's in an in memoriam. It's like the style of face that she has. But I loved her in All About Eve, and I loved her in Cinderella, the Lesley Ann Warren version. She's the stepmother? She's the fairy godmother in that.
Do you remember when you asked Lesley Ann Warren about her? You were like, and you were just like, oh my God, was she, I forget what you said, like, was she cool and like whatever? And she was like, well, she was like very vain. And I would think we were both like shocked.
Right. We thought we were going to get an old Hollywood story, and Lesley Ann Warren told us like that she told her like not to eat before she put on her dress or something. Something that was a little hateful. R.I.P. Celeste Holm. I love you forever.
So to catch y'all up on what's happening here, You Might Know Her From headquarters is, well, one, we're maybe back a little sooner than you thought. So that is all the more reason for you to be following us on social media, and make sure that you are subscribed to You Might Know Her From wherever you're listening to this episode. But two, we are continuing to not have actor interviews on the show because, as you know, probably, SAG-AFTRA is striking in partnership or in conjunction with the WGA, and we are standing union strong until there is a fair agreement. We are not releasing any of our actor interviews, and we will not be conducting any actor interviews until there is an agreement. So for the time being, we are here, Ann and Damien, tall and small, just shooting the shit, talking about pop culture ephemera that we care about. And some of it is maybe relevant, and some of it, or most of it, is probably not current, but it is what we care about. And I believe those of you that are listening care about it too. So we were like, you know what? We got to come back and talk to our listeners.
I thought it was important to relay this information since last episode we spoke about the fact that I thought I hadn't vomited that year. And turns out that when Damien and I met up to have dinner with Hannah and have a very reasonable, very sensible just dinner of Chinese food at our favorite place and have martinis, that I woke up the next morning and puked my brains out and had about a 36-hour hangover that almost did me in. It really was. I had conjured it for myself, I think, with our earlier conversation. So I'm one puke in. I think you told me that, no, I had already puked this year.
Yeah, I think there was a time when me and you were with Brenna, and the next day you had thrown up and I was worse for wear.
So at least we're at a tally of 2 for 2023. I'm going to try to keep it to that. But who knows? I turned 40 this year, so all bets are off.
I had that in my notes, but I wasn't going to mention the throw up.
In case you didn't want to shame me in front of our listeners?
Yeah, I thought it was, I wanted to give you the agency to do so.
I appreciate you so much. Such a thoughtful gentleman you are. I have no shame about it. I have a real easy puke. My reflex is pretty strong. And as like a younger person who drank a lot in my 20s, I really prided myself on having never puked on a subway train or on a subway platform, as if that was a badge of honor. But I would hold vomit in my mouth for long subway rides until I got home and could puke it into a trash can on the street. Again, as if that made any of it better. But this was a tale that I told. So yeah, I have a lot of vomit stories in my life, so they don't really do much to me. I have fewer shit stories that I'm willing to share on this podcast, but I could talk about puke all day long.
Yeah, I have some puke stories too. One day we'll do maybe just an all puke episode. That one time I was on a steroid and I just like vomited on the subway, but somehow didn't, and then like got off, and then vomited from 59th Street all the way up to 123rd Street. Like we're just stopping and vomiting in trash cans and keeping it moving. I couldn't get into a cab or a subway because the motion just activated it more. So, but anyway, so we went to this restaurant with Hannah. We had drinks, we had dinner, we were celebrating the Mel B and Geri romance rumors, and we went then to another bar where we met Hannah and other friends for the Women's World Cup. I thought we were sober, but then I realized we were drunk, and
I had like to my credit, I had 2 Jamesons before I had 3 martinis, and then a 4th martini to close out the night.
So I don't know if you know that you instigated something in me, but also in this night.
What did I instigate?
So I realized you were like, I forget what we were talking about, but you were like, it's a thing of beauty, a thing of beauty. And I was like, what's that from? I know that. What's that quote from?
Yeah.
And you were like, it's from Barbra Streisand recording like at the ballet with Anne Hathaway and Daisy Ridley. And I was like, oh my God. Yes, of course that quote is like emblazoned.
Beautiful, beautiful, a thing of beauty.
Yeah. Next week you'll do Barbra Streisand for the cold open.
I have to.
So you said that, it reminded me of that video of them all in the recording studio performing.
In her Malibu home, like her
her
personal recording studio. She's got one headphone up to her ear and the other is dangling around her neck, a big set of headphones, and then she's directing them from the other side of the booth. It is perfection.
So it unearthed that entire Duets album that really was released, I don't even know, within the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And so then I have been just the next day I sent you the Melissa McCarthy Anything You Can Do I Can Do Better, because I was like, do you remember this? Because like I think I remember the video recording of it, but I've never listened to the full track where they're like, it's like they're singing Anything You Can Do I Can Do Better, a classic, a standard, but they're like, you starving bridesmaids, I am mama fucker. And it's like so embarrassing. And listen, I want to be very clear, Melissa McCarthy is so happy to be there.
Yes.
She sounds terrible, but she's like so happy. And also like if Barbra Streisand came to us and was like, hey guys, I want you guys to come to my Malibu home and record Anything You Can Do I Can Do Better, but about your podcast, I would be like, I'm a simple faggot. Like I would just do whatever and she'd be like, yeah, you're gonna get paid for this too. I'd be like, of course. But it is so wild and so stupid.
Yeah.
And like the behind the scenes like videos are all so deeply, at least for Barbara, deeply scripted.
Yes, completely scripted. And also she's like, we wrote these lyrics with the idea, like the royal we, as if Barbra Streisand was sitting down and writing these, like, what sad intern wrote these pathetic lyrics? And she was like, that'll do. And they also act at the beginning of every song. So there's just like an intro scene where it's them in a studio having short dialogue before they enter the song. Melissa McCarthy, I agree, is totally game, is there to have fun. My favorite part is when they're coaching her and she can't get the note right. And she's like, ah. And they're like, it's ah. And she's like, ah. I can't hear it. I can't hear it. And she is fine to be on camera embarrassing herself.
Yeah, it's charming.
At the behest of Barbra Streisand, because what an experience. A once-in-a-lifetime experience to go to that house. They even make a joke about having a mall in your basement, which Barbra Streisand does, and it houses like her doll collection. Anyway, it really is so pure Barbra, and I feel like it would seem like it's a parody of herself and self-knowing, but it isn't, and that's what's so beautiful about it. It has absolutely no self-knowledge.
Well, it's so interesting. She does At the Ballet with Daisy Ridley and Anne Hathaway, and then like they act the beginning and act at the end, but then like Barbara's she sings the Maggie, all of the like big Maggie notes, and it's like, and then like Anne Hathaway like joins her at the very, very end of it, and it's like, cool, like you were just like just be Maggie then,
right?
She's supposed to be Sheila, and at the end it's like Anne Hathaway like does sing something, and then Barbara's like, so what? And she like adds like she like ad-libs something as like an acting choice. And I was like, oh, interesting choice. You're just.
And I think you made the point to me that if she really wanted to hire the best singers, she could have had like Jennifer Hudson on. It's like a cast of white women that are not great singers, that are fine singers and to bad.
Yeah.
And they are fine to bad. And she doesn't have any black women on the show. And it's clear that she wanted to not have anybody that was too good as a woman.
100%. I mean, the men. Well, that's not true. I guess she has Patrick Wilson, Hugh Jackman,
Jamie Foxx.
Those are, and Seth MacFarlane is also on it. I guess he can sing too.
He can sing. I hate that Seth MacFarlane can sing. I actually don't want to know anything about him personally, so don't tell me. But I hate that his whole thing is he like wears fedoras and can sing like Frank Sinatra. It is extremely irritating.
I don't really have anything to say about him.
Great. Perfect.
So let's rewind though. So we were at dinner. I made a joke, but we were, in a way, we were celebrating seeing each other, but we were also celebrating this news. To break it down for our listeners.
Okay, so we found this TikTok, and it's this account on it's this TikTok account called Sapphic Underground, and she breaks down lesbian gossip in a variety of genres. She's British. She does a whole piece about Geri and Mel B's relationship that I think spanned the course, they say, from 1994 to 1997.
Something like that,
Something along those lines. So they give photographic video evidence, clips from Geri Halliwell's book about how they all, like, Viva Forever was written by Geri, and it's about her relationship with Mel B, and say hasta mañana because they spent time together in a Spanish island and they had these secret vacations together, and the other girls in the group never commented on why they broke up because they all knew that it was because Geri had to leave because Mel B had broken her heart and she couldn't withstand it, and the girls will never tell the secret. And my head exploded because it was as if this thing that I had felt as a young person but didn't have words for was finally presented on a silver platter to me, and I could not be happier.
If you are a 90s kid, if you are a kid that loves the Spice Girls, if you're a queer kid that loves the Spice Girls, I imagine if you are a lesbian or a bisexual woman or queer woman that loves the Spice Girls, any sort of catch-all there, I feel like this will resonate with you. I was deeply moved by some of the videos. There was one I listened, there was like 7 of them, and I was watching them all, and I like went back and rewatched some after I watched them to be like, wait, I need to pay attention more to the evidence, because there's a lot of evidence. Like, they both have talked about it in a way that like seems honest, but also like, no, there's never been like, I'm gay and we were in a gay relationship, or like I was in love with, but it's like, it's implied pretty explicitly that they have had sexual relationship, and that they also like went on trips and vacations and had a deep connection and would have been friends outside of the group in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been with the other girls. So it seems like it seems explicit. Mm-hmm. But there was this one video where I guess this happened on, what is the show that Mel B is?
Britain's Got Talent.
Or America's Got Talent, I think. Or X Factor. One of those.
And
I guess there was like a psychic, who knows? There was like a psychic doing some sort of quiz, and he was like, Mel B, you've taken lots of great vacations, right? Like, write on a piece of paper like your very favorite vacation, and I'm gonna like predict what the vacation was. And she's writing it down, and you can see like she's writing like Geri in like Fiji. And then he's like, if I pull a picture of her up on the island, well, and she was like, Mel was like, how do you know it's all she? And then it's like that is the moment, and I'm weeping in Morningside Park walking my dog like, oh my god, like they were fucking in love. And like there's all these excerpts from Geri's book about like their vacations together, and how like basically they both have said that like there's this one trip, I don't remember where they went. I don't know if it's the Fiji trip, but there's one vacation that they went on that like they both have said is like their favorite vacation, and Geri like talks about like it's the best Christmas she ever had was spent with Mel B, and I just feel like, wow.
So I think what's interesting is I love the Spice Girls, both ironically and in earnest, as a 13-year-old. It was a very specific time. It's like how you and I talk about how we both watched Barney, but why?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm too cool for this because I'm wearing,
Jinkos?
Not Jinkos. I only bought thrift store clothes at that
like
time.
bell-bottom corduroys from the Salvation
Army. I wore
Army.
size 40 pants, and I would fold them over and then borrow my dad's belt and like make my own shirts, or I had a whole vision of who I thought I was. But I also loved the Spice Girls in complete earnest. So I loved the Spice Girls. I saw them after Geri left. I never got to see Geri live.
Same.
But then when years passed and I reflected back on the Spice Girls in my, early 20s, I think there was this idea that the girl power was such a performative bullshit. And what is that wave of feminism? It's
third wave feminism.
Damien and I talk about this a lot, that there was this sort of performative, and it's I think it's related to the hashtag girl boss and that whole nightmare that we're still living through.
Well, right, that you can be feminine, you can be sexualized if you have agency. You can wear big platform heels and a bodice and only that, and be like, I'm ginger, and that's for Gilligan's Island, but I own this, and that's I'm owning my womanhood and my sexuality.
Right, and so I always thought that was sort of feminism light or whatever, in my 20s, and I think whatever I thought, or whatever inklings I had that something was brewing, because their chemistry is off the charts. Geri and Mel B, you can feel it when you watch Spice World. You can see it when you watch behind the scenes videos. It is
But in
palpable.
general, it is, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say that I think even in the Fivesome, when you think about those interviews that I obsessively watched as a kid, and also Spice World, it is surprising that they were sort of put together to live in a house, and that's how they were discovered, because they do have a rapport, and maybe that is just it just was a real world casting went right, where it's they just do have, after spending however many months they had to live together, they just did develop a good.
O-Town could never. But I really think what this has done for my brain has been I've rejiggered those thoughts of thinking that this was all sort of performative for the cameras, and this is cute that they have a little flirtation and it's so charming. And I was I really do think that they were in a romantic relationship. And I don't even think it's far-fetched. I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's Mel B already had admitted that they fucked. And I don't know what Geri had or had not admitted, but all signs point to there clearly was something, and whether or not it was friends who were messing around, and then somebody...
They didn't attend each other's weddings.
Right. And have stated so, each had salty comments when asked about it in the press. So it really it makes me sad, because I hope that... I don't know. I think Mel B has had more relationships with women. I don't know that Geri has. They also have had relationships with men. So who knows? We're not stating anything about anything other than the fact that I would love it if they were able to come together as friends, as more than friends, to reflect on the time, to write a tell-all, to come out with it. I feel like it lit some flame that I didn't know was extinguished.
Do you think them being in a relationship, romantic and or sexual, changes any of your feelings about that sort of third wave feminism and what they sort of represented, and that feminism TM, trademarked feminism?
I don't think it changes anything for me, because they are essentially a product.
Yes,
they were
100%.
packaged as a product, but somehow for me they rose above, and I think that's part of why they have worldwide appeal, is something about their dynamic was crackling and transcended the sort of TM that was stamped on them and was so fake and silly and stupid. But Mel B and Geri were clearly the stars of the troupe. They couldn't help but shine. So I don't know that it really says anything. I don't think it says anything positive. I think it's actually the opposite, is that they were both, there was no version where they could be oh, we're together. And who knows if that was even it, or if they were in their 20s and caught feelings and it was tumultuous and they loved each other, but then also it exploded and it wasn't that serious, except for they were world famous.
Yeah.
But I do think it makes me rethink all of those feelings that I had as a young girl who was into it, but it's not I had actively sexual thoughts about the Spice Girls, but there was obviously something there.
I want to say that if this alleged reunion that's coming up, I think what they say in 2024, if that actually happens, I hope that they come to the States. But if not, we might need to actually just go to London for it. But also, I have to believe that if they're trying to fill seats and get great press, that they're going to address this.
Yes.
Although I don't know, because I don't know.
What if Savick Underground is a plant?
Oh, I know you did say
She's a years out plant.
You did say this is all probably to drum up press for the reunion tour. And I was well, I don't think so. But, weirder things have happened.
Damien sweetly gifted me Geri's memoir. He said that there's maybe 2, which I love, a part 1 and a part 2 for somebody who's under 50. But
is she 50 now, you think?
I bet she's like 46. What do you think?
Maybe, I think she's older. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're probably right. She's probably 46 to 48.
I was a Mel B gal and you were a Geri gal. And
I
loved both of them so much,
yeah.
But I was definitely a Mel B and you were a Geri, and it makes so much sense.
I love it. I love Geri so much because she was just like, she was the star with like the arguably least amount of talent, but like the most charisma.
Yes.
So I just think that she's just amazing.
So speaking of exciting lesbian news, last night I was in Brooklyn seeing the New York Liberty play. And, you know, when you leave Barclays, you have to walk down that big tunnel that's right at the exit of Barclays. So everybody sort of gets funneled into one subway exit. And as we were chatting and saying goodbye to some friends, our friend Vanessa just nudges me. I was like, and I look over, and who's walking towards me into the subway but Fran Lebowitz?
Oh my God, I forgot you sent me a picture.
With a woman. And I said, oh, dear fucking shit. Is it possible that she was at the New York Liberty game? I can't imagine anything more off-brand.
She was on a date at the...
Okay, right? So, like, who is she with? Who's the woman that she's with? She also looked like an author-type, long, flowing black dress. She had the Liberty towel with her, so I know Fran was with her and therefore was at the New York Liberty game. And I couldn't believe it. It just seems so off-brand for her, but except for it's super gay. So we trekked probably 12 feet behind her. And when I tell you I'm too old for this shit to like follow a celebrity around, but it's Fran Lebowitz in Brooklyn coming out of a WNBA game. You only get one chance.
No one would hate it more than Fran Lebowitz.
No, and that's the thing. I've already seen her in New York once on Bleecker Street, and I nudged Hannah when she was walking past us smoking a cigarette in her blue blazer, and she saw me do it and rolled her eyes in my face. It was a perfect interaction. It's like, this is what you want out of these celeb exchanges. But I just couldn't believe it. So Fran Lebowitz goes to the WNBA. What more can I do to convince you guys that you need to buy tickets? It's really the gayest shit in town. It was so cool. Also, we were like, oh my God, she's going to take the 2 train with us. She's going to take the 2 train uptown. Holy shit. So then we're just maintaining our distance like creepy millennials. And then we thought she was getting onto the train, and she swerves and she just stands on the platform. And I think she smelled us. I think she could smell the desperation in us. So we got onto the train and went off without her. But it really was, I felt like I had been blessed by a gay angel. Just a mean, short little gay angel. And the cuff on her jeans was no joke, about 7 inches. It was a 7-inch cuff.
That's cool.
It's so cool. And she had her cowboy boots on. She looked so good. Anyway, it was one of my favorite sightings in years, and it made me feel good. And hopefully I was not too creepy. It just like, you know, that she's one of the few people that makes you feel like New York still exists.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
And folks, we love you so much. Thank you for joining us here for a special mini episode of You Might Know Her From. Thank you for your patience as we sort of ride out what this is all looking like while the actors and writers are striking. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. If you have never left us a written review on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify or wherever you're listening to podcasts, please do so. That helps us continue to do this thing. And it's really the best thing you can do for an independent podcast like ours.
Like Damien said, stay connected and subscribed. You can follow us on all social media platforms at Rodeman, that's RODEMANNE, and at Damien Bellino, that's Damien with an A. Please, folks, get it right. Also, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at You Might Know Her From, where we are posting content new and old, hopeful things, actresses that are dead, actresses we hope to get. So find us there.
Know Her From is produced by us, that is Ann Rodeman and Damien Bellino, but we also want to thank our consultants at Grumpy Entertainment, Mr. Jason Jude Hill and Mr. Daniel Sears, and all of that beautiful editing that you hear right now is by the wonderful, incomparable, and the talented Daniel Sears.
Special thanks to Gang. As always, every song you hear on You Might Know Her From is courtesy of Gang. Gang is 3/4 women. Gang is from Philadelphia. Go download Gang wherever you listen to your tunes. Just gonna tell you that, do you remember the Viva Forever music video?
Is it clay figurines?
Yes. They look like clay Bratz dolls, and they're fairies.
Yeah, they're flying.
Yes. I was obsessed with it. And that was also one of my favorite songs on the album.
So the TikTok said that was the last song they wrote as a group, which I don't think I knew theoretically. And then also, then it made me wonder if that's why the music video looks like that, because if she had already left when the single came out.
They claimed that Geri wrote the song, and I'm wondering if she was just like,
I feel like all of their songs were like written by other people and that maybe they wrote it, but maybe she was like the one woman of the group who like did write it with the co-writers. So let's dig into that and see if she is like truly, I can't imagine it's like written by just them.
No, and I hope, whatever it is, I hope she's getting paid for it. But do you remember that they did the Spice Girls stage musical in the West End called Viva Forever? Written by
Jennifer Saunders.
It's one of my great regrets that I didn't see it. I think it was very short-lived.
I think it was like about a girl group too, like a mother and a daughter.
I hate it.
I think it should have been
make it about this fucking romance that
although,
breaks up the
Mamma
group.
Mia, it's like,
Sure, but I just think we need what we need.
I wonder what songs were in it. Let's look that up now.
Done.